It's a great honor to greet you all, to welcome you, and to be able to share with you a really nice moment, a truly nice moment, where we can share our shared humanity and where we can also cheer each other up and learn beside our dear Tal Ben Shahar. My name is Arlene Solovkin. I lead Instituto de Bienestar Integral. I also have the great honor of presiding over Sociedad Mexicana de Psicología Positiva, which I thank very much that they have joined in this cause with us. And it's also a great honor to be part also of Happiness Studies Academy, a great academy founded by our dear Tal Ben Shahar, who is a world leader in happiness studies, who has been my teacher, a great friend as well, and with who I have the pleasure of being part of the certificate in happiness studies, which is starting its newest cohort this month. And we would love for you to join. So I'm briefly going to share a video where you can get a little taste of this great certificate, and later we're gonna be talking about it. Is my screen visible? Can you let me know? Yeah, am I sharing my screen? Okay. We can hear the video, but we can see it. Okay. Well, if you make me a co-host, maybe I can help. No, don't worry. We're gonna start the webinar while I try to make this work. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Apologies, please. So sorry, Tal. Okay, we're gonna start the webinar. Excuse me, Arlene. You have to open the video. That's why it was not visible. If you want to show it, you have to open the file. Yeah, I opened it, but I don't know what happened. Don't worry about it. We're gonna start. We're gonna jump right in. You can choose live interpretation by going to the toolbar below and clicking on the interpretation icon.
Tal, I'm so sorry about the technical aspects. I rehearsed and I'm very sorry about this, but I want to welcome you again to the community here with Ivy, with the Sociedad Mexicana de Psicología Positiva. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And it seemed like uncertainty happened right now with me today. So things happen and we need to learn and try to do our best in the moment. But you are very welcome here.
It's great to be here, Arlene. And yes, I think we prepared perfectly, and I think everyone got the idea of what uncertainty looks like and feels like. So very well done. Thank
Exactly. Next time I'm going to choose a different topic, I think. Flow, maybe I will choose flow.
Yeah. Let's just go for straight happiness. It's the easiest.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do next time. So, yes, so we are living in uncertain times. And of course, you have said many times that feeling painful emotions is not a sign of failure, it's actually part of being human. And I wanted to ask you, how can we allow ourselves to feel uncertainty without feeling consumed by it?
Yeah. Arlene, the answer that I'm going to give actually goes back thousands of years to ancient wisdom from Buddhism, from some of the religion or religious philosophy, as well as modern science. And basically, the idea here is that there are two levels of suffering, two levels of pain that come from seeing something which is disturbing, or from experiencing uncertainty, or from failure, or from disappointment. But in general, there are two levels of suffering, two levels of pain. The first level is inevitable. So if I'm not sure, for example, how I'm going to feed my family next month, that's uncertainty. And there is a great deal of pain and suffering, emotional suffering from it. If my livelihood or life is threatened, there's a great deal of suffering that comes from this experience, and that's inevitable. And everyone experiences that. But then there is also a second level of suffering and pain. And that comes when I reject the first level. So if, for example, I say to myself something like, I've been studying happiness for a long time. I shouldn't feel this way as a result of uncertainty. I should feel calm. Once I go for this, I should feel this way, the level of pain and suffering goes up immediately. That's the second level of suffering. Or if I say to myself, you shouldn't be upset by this or that, immediately, how upset I am goes up. Second level of suffering. The first level of suffering, inevitable. It's inevitable for you, for the Dalai Lama, for the person who's the calmest in the world. Inevitable. The second level of suffering, that's where we have a choice. And the choice is, do we accept the first or do we reject it? If we accept the first and recognize that it's part of being human, then we're less likely to go to the second level.
Wonderful. So the one of the concepts that is so important that I've learned from you is actually permission to be human, which I think it's related to what you were just saying, to allow ourselves to feel all kinds of emotions, and then to also choose perhaps certain habits or certain choices that can allow for you to go back to center, to
Exactly.
feel, if not happy, at least calm, or at least in a safer space emotionally. So, yeah.
Yes, and Arlene, our common teacher, Professor Martin Seligman, um, talks about this as the foundation of the field of positive psychology, the science of happiness, where he says that historically people thought that positive psychology was only for people who feel good to feel even better. But what his research and Christopher Peterson's research and Barbara Fredrickson and many others' research shows is that the value of positive psychology, the science of happiness, doesn't just lie in helping people who are already feeling good feel great. It also helps people who are struggling deal with their struggles. In other words, what it does, it helps us become more resilient. It helps us strengthen our psychological immune system. And a strong psychological immune system doesn't mean we don't get sick. It doesn't mean we don't feel unwell. It simply means that when we get sick, we recover more quickly and we're less likely to get sick. That's what a strong immune system means. And that's the value of the science of happiness.
Yeah, and there are many studies that show that. So actually, I've seen some images that are so strong when people are facing difficulties, even in as a collective group, and something difficult is happening, and sometimes you see these groups coming together and singing or dancing, even in amidst very important, difficult moments, and the choice that they make to bring about positive emotions allows them to be more resilient and
Exactly.
to face adversity with a stronger heart, if
Yeah.
that's a way of saying it.
Yes, quite literally, with with a stronger heart, with a more resilient heart, with a stronger immune system.
Yeah. And tell what would you say, because I've heard, you are always surrounded with groups, with the master's program, with the certificate program, and I am as well with the work that I do. And I see that a lot of people are feeling emotionally depleted right now.
Yeah.
And it's like some of them have said to me, it feels like I have nothing left to give.
Hmm.
So what would you suggest? Where can people start to reconnect with their will to live and their will to give to others? Because I think giving, it's also a pathway to give ourselves a better life and a better present. What would you tell them?
Yeah. First of all, Arlene, it's not easy. It's not easy for just about for anyone, and we all go through these periods, sometimes more than other times. So what do we do about it? Well, there are many things that we can do. You mentioned exercise. Whether it's dance or whether it's going to the gym. So before COVID, I used to exercise 3 times a week religiously. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I exercised. I didn't do more than that because I didn't love it, and I felt like it was enough. COVID comes. We go as a society go through a very difficult period. One of the first changes that I made was I increased from 3 times to 5 times a week. And by the way, I've kept that. I still do five
Mm.
times a week. Just before this, I was out exercising religiously. So doing that is critical for psychological health. There's a lot of research showing that physical toughness directly translates to mental toughness. So exercising is important in order to fill up our resources. Another thing that's important, especially these days, is to savor and express gratitude. Even if you stop literally now for a minute and look at a flower or look at a person you care about, whether the actual person or a picture of the person, and just allow the emotion that you feel towards that person, love, fondness, gratitude, fill you up. That quite literally fills up our depleted resources. Third, recovery, rest. You know, um, this could be taking a week off and just doing nothing, or watching movies and reading books and going for long walks. Or it could be an hour of recovery, or even very short recoveries, such as a minute to breathe deeply. Close your eyes in, take a deep breath. And there's, by the way, many things that we can do with the breath. It's one of the most powerful interventions, and it's quite literally under our noses. So engaging in different forms of breath or pranayama in yoga, that can go a long way and help. And the other thing is sometimes we need to fake it, meaning even if we don't feel like it, just do it, and then over time, the feeling will change. You know, it's a little bit like how we deal with procrastination. The best way to deal with procrastination is not to tell ourselves, okay, I'm going to be motivated. I'm going to do it. Yes. No, it's to simply do it. And by doing it, we very often get the energy to do more. So these are some of the things that we can do. And the most important thing, Arlene, is to experiment, to try. Because the worst thing that we can do is just go into this state where we say, well, I'm just going to do nothing. No exercise, not trying to help other people, not gratitude, nothing. Just hope that it will go away by itself. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it will get worse.
Yeah, so I believe agency it's very important, because when there are so many things out there in the world that are beyond our control, feeling that we can control at least our own actions and that we have an effect in our immediate surrounding really makes a big difference. And feeling self-efficacious to do at least what you need to do to feel better in the moment, or to help somebody else feel better in this moment.
Yeah. Um, you know, there's a lot of research over the past 70 years on helping at-risk population, so the underprivileged population. And what the research generally shows is that most interventions, so if someone comes from the outside to help, whether it's a neighborhood, whether it's a school, whether it's a city, when people come from the outside to help, they usually fail. So most interventions, good intention, the desire to help, but they mostly fail. What programs do work? The programs that generally work are programs that come in to help, but they don't just help in whatever way they want. They help those people help others. Why? Because you see, the essence of depression is helplessness. When I feel like I can't do anything. And that is the state, the condition of so many people living in at-risk population areas, in poor areas. And again, whether this is in Mexico or in the US, in Africa or in China, around the world you see this phenomenon. The people in those areas feel helpless. So when you come in and help them, it will help them in the short term, but it will not change their predicament. The only way to change their predicament, reliable way, is to go in and help them help others. And once they help others, suddenly they're not helpless anymore. Rather, they're helpful. And that changes the equation. And it's the same way when we are feeling down. And it doesn't matter if we're a CEO of a company, a parent, a stay-at-home parent, a teacher in a classroom, or a volunteer in a homeless shelter. When we feel that we're helpful, that in and of itself can take us out of the helplessness and can make us, and as you pointed out, that reinstates a sense of agency, of control. And if we do that with exercising, with appreciation, with perhaps dancing, with perhaps reaching out and talking to people, all these things together can help a great deal.
Yeah. And Tal, what about getting back to our purpose and meaning, like finding meaning within the chaos, like to really try to have that sense of meaning making, even amidst difficult situations.
Yeah. One of the interventions that really work is journaling, just writing a journal about the difficult situation. And I'll give you just one example. So Jamie Pennybaker did this research, which I know you're familiar with, getting people to write for 4 days, every day for 20 minutes. So a total of 80 minutes. Write about their most difficult situation. Write about maybe a trauma that they experienced, whether it was 20 years ago or something that they're experiencing right now. So they write about these difficult experiences, and they can write about the same thing every day for the 4 days or something different every day. It's up to them. No one else sees it, or rather, no one knows that they wrote it. They analyze it after, but they don't know who this belongs to. And after 80 minutes, 4 days, 20 minutes each day, not only do they feel better, but even a year later, they are less anxious, less likely to be depressed. When people who were just fired from their job, Arlene, do you want to talk about uncertainty? What does it feel like, when my job no longer exists? People who go through this very simple protocol, 4 times 20 minutes, 6 months later, they're more likely to find themselves in new jobs. Now, the question is, why does it help so much? Just writing about your experience. So Jamie Pennybaker, the researcher, actually analyzed the texts. And what he found was that there was a certain process, a trajectory that the writers went through in those 4 days. And primarily, the trajectory was around finding meaning in what they were going through. So on day 3 and 4, you found more words such as, now I see that, or I understand that, or this is what it means, or I'm grateful that this happened because. So day 1, day 2 was mostly around life sucks. This is so hard. And again, permission to be human, first step. Express your emotion, don't suppress it. That's the beginning. But then suddenly there was a change towards a sense of meaning and purpose around that difficult experience. And that led to healing.
Yeah, that's so I'm always impressed when I hear that story again and again, because it's such a simple practice, and most of the practices that you've talked about are free, are in our hands, like we were saying before, breathing.
Yeah.
It's free, and it makes such a difference in your life, and exercising and writing down. So we have a lot of resources, and often when we are facing difficult times, we feel like we don't have any. So the first step is to recognize all the options that we do have available. But one of the most difficult things to do when we are in despair is to actually empower ourselves to choose at least one of those strategies, right? It's so difficult in those moments.
Yeah, it is difficult because again, our inclination, when we're feeling great, our inclination is to go out there and do things in the world. When we're not feeling great, when we're feeling down, our inclination is to, go to bed and do nothing. And sometimes we need to act against that inclination. Yes, initially cry, shed a tear, and then move on.
Yeah. And you know, what I was thinking, of course, before this webinar, that for me, one of the most important strategies to go through difficult moments is to actually um, be close and identify a group of people who tend to be positive and who tend to have a bigger perspective, because that helps you a lot to overcome these moments where we feel isolated. And I'm talking about the world situation in this moment, or when you lose your job, or when you're going through divorce, or even smaller things. And I think that that's one of the most amazing uh, experiences that we share in Happiness Studies Academy and in the certificate in Happiness Studies. It's really the community, to feel that we are together and we can support each other when we go through difficult times, and we can support each other to become greater when good times are there for us. So, and I think this is something that every person can choose, you know, to find who are those people that will actually, it's not make you feel better because they are seeing the world with pink color lenses, but it's really people who are able to see both the challenge and also the opportunity, or those little pieces in your daily life that are enriching, that are nurturing. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's so true. And Arlene, you've heard me say this before, and all the people who are part of the Happiness Studies Academy, whether it's the MA or the certificate program, have heard me say this before, that the most important element of EB or HSA is not the material that we teach. The material that we teach is great. It really is. But that's easy because, we draw on the great works of Marty Seligman and the great works of Aristotle and Helen Keller. You know, we have so much to draw on, thousands of years of wisdom from different cultures, from different times. That's the easy part. What's the challenging part, and what is the most important part? It's creating a community. Why? Because creating a community, especially when we're talking about an international community, creating a community is challenging, and it is the very thing that will help us deal in the best possible way with hardships and difficulties and uncertainties and failures and misery. Why? Because when you're a part of a community, you're not alone. And unfortunately, loneliness levels, yes, in the US more so, but even in Mexico, increasingly so, loneliness levels are rising. Why? A lot of it has to do with technology, because technology tends to separate, disconnect people. Whereas if you can create a community that brings together people, you're halfway there. That's the foundation. That's the fertile soil. From that fertile soil, we as individuals and as a group can flourish.
And Tal, let me ask you, what have you seen in these incredible communities that has taught you something about collective well-being and collective hope? What are the traits? What can you, like, if you were able to kind of take a step back and look at, you know, our community of almost 3,000 people from all over the world, like a small United Nations that really works. What are the successes in terms of the choices that people make that allows them to be hopeful, to feel, um, uh, like the architects of their own lives? What
Yeah.
can you share with us?
Yeah, so I think it's mainly two things. One being passive, the other being active. The passive element is the psychological safety that people feel. They feel, I feel that I can open up and talk about what I'm going through, whether it's something wonderful or whether it's something hurtful, but I can talk about it. And then when I talk about, people listen, maybe share what they're going through, something similar, so I don't feel like I'm alone. One of the things with social media and the reason why people feel so, in general, not always, but in general, so much worse as a result of social media, because we so often feel alone. I may feel down, but on social media, everyone's feeling great. Now, I know it's not true, but it doesn't matter because I just see posts and pictures as if everyone is celebrating, but I'm not. And when I realize that I'm not alone, I'm more likely to give myself the permission to experience whatever it is that I'm experiencing, as opposed to saying to myself, something's wrong with you, which of course makes things worse. So the fact that there is psychological safety leads to more self-compassion. The fact that there is compassion from others allows me to be more compassionate towards myself and towards others. So that's the first thing. There is psychological safety. The second thing, this is a group that's committed to a common mission, common values, common desires. And that is very simply to spread happiness, to make our world a happier, better place. And when you are brought together by a common mission, that does wonders. I mean, if you look at the best organizations in the world, and I'm talking about business organizations, I'm talking about religious organizations, I'm talking about government organizations. The best ones are the ones that are unified around a common mission, not around a common process, but a mission. The process can be different because I may decide to spread happiness by teaching. Someone else may decide to spread happiness by volunteering in an organization and handing out food. Another person may decide to spread happiness through business. And we have all these different ways of uniting around a common mission, spreading happiness.
And I think what you're saying about a common mission is so important because actually social media polarizes people. So you will see in social media messages of what you already know or like, and you will be completely isolated from hearing the opposite views. And when we come together in a community where there are many different views, but we have the common mission of really honoring our common humanity and honoring our mission of spreading happiness and hope around the world, then the polarity ends because you find a lot of middle grounds that you can deal with. And this is so important nowadays because we are seeing a world where people have a very hard time communicating to each other or sharing a conversation because we are very defensive and we want to be right. And when there is a common, goal of coming together to honor each other, then it's not that all the difference dissipate, but there is something more important that uh, helps us stay in that middle ground. And I think this is such a gift in today's world. And the invitation is not only, of course, to join the certificate program, the masters, our communities, but also to find that in your own families, in your own communities, to create that, to find what are those values that can be the core of your relationship with other people.
Yeah. And Arlene, it's very important to remember the world would not be a better place if everyone thought the same.
Mhm.
The world becomes a better place when people actually disagree. But if they have a common mission of wanting to make the world better, if they have the common mission of wanting to spread happiness and goodness, then these disagreements actually help contribute to the betterment of the world. You know, the most successful teams in organizations or the most successful nations are not ones where there is, you know, one way and that's the highway. It's actually when people disagree. You know, there's a lot of research, for example, on the positive impact on diversity, the positive impact of diversity in work groups. Why? Because when you have diversity, you have different ideas, different ways of seeing things. And yeah, of course, everyone has a common mission. You want the team to succeed, you want the company to succeed, but you see things differently, you disagree. And as a result of that, there is learning and growth. You know, one of the challenges with social media is that it generally tends to reinforce what you already think. Because, you know, if I'm of a in a specific political party, the social media knows that because it knows who my friends are, it knows what I read. It will send me more articles, more links that simply reinforce what I already think. It will not challenge me. And when I'm not challenged, I don't grow as much as when I am. So, agreeableness, agreeing about everything is not necessarily a virtue. But the key is to have psychological safety as the foundation and to have a common mission. And again, that common mission can be a better world, a happier world, a more ethical society, whatever it is. But a positive mission unites diverse, different views.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. And I know many people here might have some questions, Tal. And I would like to open the floor for those of you who want to ask a question. You can ask a question in Spanish or in English because there is translation. So if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand you can choose to raise your hand, like Jorge Aguilar. And after Jorge, let's see who else wants to ask a question. And I will also look at the chat. Jorge, por favor.
Thank you very much, Arlene. My question for Tal is, do you think real happiness requires uncertainty? And if so, how can we change our relationship with uncertainty to see it as an ally instead of a foe? That's my question.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Jorge. So, the first thing we need to recognize is that whether or not we like uncertainty, it will exist. It will be there. It's part of life. It's part of every life. You know, I remember when I was younger, I was looking for stability. You know, I say because you know some people deal better with uncertainty than others. I didn't deal well with uncertainty. You know, I had higher levels of anxiety. I didn't want uncertainty in my life. And I looked for complete calm and equanimity. That was my mantra, equanimity, which means everything is equal, calm, like this, like a sea on a beautiful day or a lake on a beautiful day. And then I realized that it was unrealistic, that my expectations were unrealistic. And unrealistic expectations necessarily lead to frustration. And it was paradoxically after I accepted the fact that uncertainty was an inevitable part of life, that I was going to experience it no matter what I did. Even if I meditated for 13 hours a day, I would still experience the emotions that come with uncertainty. once I truly accepted it, it stopped being such a big of an issue. You know, think about this, Jorge. Let's say um, every day I would wake up in the morning and say to myself, why can't I fly? Why am I not able to fly? I would be constantly frustrated. But because I accept, like all of you, I accept the fact that I cannot fly, I don't worry about it as much. Now, would I like to fly? That would be lovely. You know, I'd love to, climb up, maybe 100 meters and look down and fly. It's so beautiful. But I can't. It's part of reality. So I accept that reality. There's no reason why I can't accept the reality that uncertainty exists for as long as we're alive. And that also helps, going to the second part of your question, that also can help make an ally out of uncertainty because it's part of life. Now, the other thing that we can do after we accept it, or even before we accept it, is introduce certain mantras or sentences into our life to remind us to accept it. For example, I can have, if I find it very difficult to deal with uncertainty, every morning I can remind myself, I accept uncertainty. Or, I have a whiteboard here, I can write, I accept uncertainty. Or I embrace uncertainty. Or uncertainty provides me an opportunity to learn and to grow. Or uncertainty means that I'm alive. What a privilege. So this can help reframe what I feel about uncertainty and make uncertainty an ally rather than a foe, a friend rather than an enemy. First, accept it. Second, see what you can do to reframe it.
Thank you so much, Tal.
Thank you, Tal. And I'm very happy to see here Luz de Lourdes and Sandra, who are part of the Sociedad Mexicana de Psicología Positiva, que por cierto los invitamos a unirse. I'm very happy to see them here. And yeah, so Luz de Lourdes, por favor, bienvenida.
Thank you very much. It's also a great honor for us. I wanted to ask, because I've been working with couples for many years, and a while ago I had a couple that they decided to get married, but between them they have a lot of difficulties. They both want to be right, and so they are in conflict. My question is, how can I give this couple the tools to agree? What tools can we teach or give couples so they can agree on something? Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a story that I heard growing up. So there was this, great rabbi who, people used to go to when they had challenges. Once there were no psychotherapists, people used to go to the rabbi or to the priest when they had psychological challenges. So two people are fighting in the village. And the first person goes to the rabbi and tells him, my neighbor took away my cow, and it was not right, and he stole it from me. It's not. And the rabbi listens to him and says, you're right. And he goes out, he's happy. The rabbi said, I'm right. The second person, the neighbor, comes into the rabbi's house and he says, my neighbor stole this, and he's immoral, and this is what he did to me. The rabbi listens and says, you're right. He walks out, he's happy, the rabbi agrees with him. Now, the rabbi didn't know that his wife was behind the curtain and she heard everything. And she goes to the rabbi and says to him, How can you tell them this? You tell him he's right, you tell him he's right. They can't both be right. The rabbi thinks and says, you are right. So, this is one way to deal with it. Okay, you can be right and you can be right. Just get together already. The other way to deal with it, on a more serious note, is to accept the fact that disagreements are part of every relationship. In fact, there is research by the great relationship scholar and practitioner John Gottman, who talks about how the healthy relationships have, on average, a 5-to-1 ratio between positive and negative experiences. A positive experience can be, when they hug or tell each other that they love each other, or make love, or go out on a date, or have a lovely conversation. These are the positive. The negative is when they have an argument, when they disagree, when they speak to each other in a less than respectful way. And he says that in healthy relationships, the ratio is 5-to-1, 5 positives to 1 negative. Now, is it in every good relationship 5-to-1? No, sometimes it's 7-to-1 and sometimes it's 4-to-1. But the message in this research, the two messages in this research are as following. First of all, the ratio needs to be positive. You want to have more positive experiences than negative experiences. The second message, you want to have some negative experiences as well. The healthy relationships are not ones where there is always agreement. Yeah, maybe during the honeymoon, you're always agreeing and you think, this is the perfect love. Maybe. It won't last. Hopefully. Because in relationships where there is seemingly no conflict, it means that they're hiding things under the rug, that they're ignoring real disagreements. So what couples need to understand, and they need to understand it early on in the relationship. You will have conflicts. You will have disagreements. Just make sure you also focus on the positive. Give your partner compliments. Hug them. Spend quality time with them. Say you're sorry when appropriate. And remember, conflicts are inevitable and even important in the context of relationships. We shouldn't run away from them or avoid them or try to agree with everything that our partner says. That's not a healthy relationship. That's not a relationship that grows over time.
Thank you very much. I've been married for 60 years, so I have a lot of experience in this, but a good tip is always welcome. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Tal, Arlene. I don't know, there's no formulas, but how can we start making a community amongst teens, amongst young people, so they have a thing in common? I see that in marketing, for example, they very easily accomplish to create needs for teens, for young people. It's important to have an iPhone, for example. A patient of mine only went to work to get his iPhone, and then he quit his job because he felt anxiety. But while he was saving up for his iPhone, he was able to work. And these young people, that they have this mission in common where they get nourished and not only end up doing what someone else says, because effectively what you say, that's what I also observe in my practice. And I also see this in my family with my nephews, because they're there, but they're also not there. And they start chatting amongst themselves, being face to face. They're chatting on their phones and they're face to face. So how can I start a dialogue with them, so they have this thing in common and they come together, right? Because I've seen that it's possible to come together, but what can you suggest, Tal?
Yes. Yeah, Sandra, what I suggest is very clear boundaries on children's use of phones. I wish there was another way. I wish I could say, yeah, put different apps on the phone or talk to them about it. These phones are so addictive, and just like we put very strict boundaries around, or we should put very strict boundaries around children's use of drugs and alcohol, we should be as vigilant about putting boundaries around the use of phone. Because all the research is showing that the main reason why depression rates have gone up so much, why anxiety rates have gone up so much, why suicide rates have gone up so much among the young generation is related to screen addiction, specifically the smartphone. Now with AI, it's going to get even worse because children are already speaking to their bot. They're already asking them personal questions. How do I go on a date? Or what do I do to be happier? And that's fine. Sometimes you can get good advice, but not if it's a substitute for real people. So if I was running a school, whether it's an elementary school or a high school, during school hours, no phone, zero. As a parent, I limit the time our kids are on the phone. Now, the key is also to find alternatives. It's very easy to say no phone, but okay, so what do I do when I'm not on the phone? My friends are on the phone. So first of all, I'm not for taking it away completely because then the children won't be in touch with their friends. Because when my kids go out with their friends to have pizza, they snap one another. That's how they learn where they are, on Snapchat. So it's okay to be on, but in moderation. So what is the substitute for being on the phone? As far as I'm concerned, the best substitute is find them hobbies that they enjoy. Sports, best. Whether it's dancing, whether it's playing football, whether it's swimming. Because when they're doing sports, they're with other people. When they're doing sport, they're physically active. When they're doing sports, they're enjoying themselves and they're off technology.
Muchas gracias.
And I would like to add, Tal, that also finding a common activity between your family members or between the group of friends and volunteering. Because when you volunteer, you come together, your attention is paid on a third person or a third objective. So you get distracted from you, me. And then you also open up to like a broader perspective. So volunteering, I would add, it's a great way for
Absolutely.
families, friends, schools to shift the attention, and it really helps a lot.
Absolutely. Yes.
Gracias, Arlene.
No, okay. So I know we're almost at the end of the session. Is it okay for you, Tal, if we take 1, 2, or?
Yeah, let's take 2 more.
Okay, 2 more, and then we'll show you the video that I couldn't show at the beginning, and we'll have a very nice closure. So, Julie, por favor.
Hello, Tal. This is Jose Antonio. I'm on Julie's
Okay,
connection.
sorry.
But first of all, thanks for being here. I will appreciate if you could answer from all your books, which would be the one you recommend? Also for, I have 4 nephews between 15 and 20 years, and all these well-being master and everything about positive psychology had been a great discovery for me. And I'm not that young, so I would like to kind of teach them, but not from an authoritarian perspective, but just buy them the book. And I know you will enjoy it. I know you will learn. I hope you like it. Something like that. Which one of your books will you recommend? Happier or something else?
Okay. Thank you for the question. So I guess I would recommend my latest one, which is Happier No Matter What. Happier no matter what, because there I talk about many of the ideas that I've come to over the last few years around the SPIRE model, which is what we teach in our programs. So happier no matter what. And if you can get that, then happier, I hope they will enjoy it too.
Okay. More than Take the Life You Want?
Now you're making it difficult for me because it's like
Yes.
asking, which kid do you recommend? Oh, you don't recommend that kid. Yeah, Choose the Life You Want is, I think, could also work for the
Okay.
younger children as well.
Thanks, Tal.
Also,
Gracias.
Has been a pleasure.
it's good for short attention span.
Has been a pleasure, sir.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Carmen.
much. Thank you.
María de Lourdes, por favor.
Hi, I'm gonna speak in Spanish because my English is not that good. I want to understand how can we understand that there's equilibrium in happiness, because we tend to be perfectionists, we tend to be controlling, and we feel this need to constantly be rushing from one thing to another. I'm 62 years old. I feel like I've gotten to the goal line. What can I do to feel that I accomplished something, to feel proud of myself, of what I accomplished? How can I do this? And how can I also communicate this to my children, to my grandchildren? Because I think it's very valuable. I never accomplished anything really big, but I gave my 100%. And I feel proud of that. But how can I communicate this to my family or in my practice? That's my question. That's what I don't know how to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this question. For all of us, there is a strong tension, or I wouldn't say for all, for most of us, there is a strong tension between the desire for more, for achievement, ambition on the one hand, and on the other hand, for calm and acceptance and appreciation. And these two forces are neither good or bad. They're both real. All of us want equanimity and calm, and all of us desire to improve and grow. And it could be to improve and grow if I'm a businessman, or to improve and grow as a teacher, or to improve and grow as a parent or grandparent. And at the same time, the desire to celebrate, to appreciate. And we need to respect both sides. Because when we respect both sides, that's when we lead a healthy life. There are so many people who their whole life are just wanting more and more and more, and they never stop to appreciate, to smell the flowers, to say to themselves, well done, to enjoy the journey.
Okay.
And the key is to remind ourselves, this is why the very simple exercise, and again, this is so simple, of saying thank you. Thank you for the food that I have on my table. Thank you for my child that is here or my grandchild that is here. We do this as a family, and we do it as a family with our kids, and we also do it when we are with my parents, and we express gratitude. And just this simple practice, especially when you do it together, helps everyone realize what truly matters in life. And what truly matters is, yes, aspiring for more and trying things and being ambitious. But what truly matters is not achieving those things. What truly matters is learning to appreciate what we have. Because when we do that, that's when we experience full happiness, as opposed to a constant dissatisfaction because we don't have enough. So the focus on appreciation, the focus on gratitude, especially when we do it with our children, with our grandchildren, with our friends, with our students, when we do it together, that can help us lead a more full and satisfied life. While at the same time accepting the fact that we want to improve and get better. That's also part of human nature, which is not a bad part. It's both. Strive to improve and do not forget to appreciate.
Yes, it's to shift our mentality, our mindset. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And Arlene, maybe we can hear Javier, and then we'll move on.
Okay, perfect. Javier.
First of all, I want to say that interacting with you has made my day. So thank you very much. I'm gonna interrupt Javier because I want to tell you that you can have this on a weekly basis if you sign up for the certificate. I know. Yeah. Tal, a question. To me, two of the most powerful developments of 21st century is positive psychology and contextual therapies, in particular the ACT therapy. Why? Because there's a scientific rigor that translates into strategies and tools applicable and simple, which could better humanity to very powerful levels. And I find it odd that there's very little dialogue from what I know between these two. Is there a continuous dialogue between the science of happiness, positive psychology, and this whole movement of ACT therapy?
It's interesting that you asked that, Javier. I was just talking to our students and I said, if I was going back now 30 years, so 1998 is when I started my PhD work. So, going back almost 30 years. And I had to decide what I'm going to study. I would have studied ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. Look, I studied organizational behavior and I'm very happy about it. And, things turned out okay. But knowing what I know today, which I didn't then, knowing what I know today, I would go and study ACT because I think it has all the elements that I believe in, such as permission to be human, accept all emotions, such as acting on your values. It has all the elements and the components that can lead to healing. So today, we teach it as part of our master's program. Now, we don't teach them to be therapists, but we do teach a clear and deep understanding of what this healing process looks like. Because you don't need to be an ACT practitioner in order to use some of the ideas to help yourself heal. And again, these ideas, I mentioned them earlier today. Accept whatever emotion comes up. 1. 2, act according to your values, your mission, what you believe in. So thank you for bringing it up. And the answer is absolutely yes. What a strong connection exists between these two, or at least should exist, and exists for our students between these two worlds. Thank you.
So we can say perhaps that uncertainty is not the enemy of well-being, but it's the training ground to it, right? Uncertainty allows us to learn many things that we need to get stronger and more resilient. And that's something that we definitely learn with you, Tal, in the certificate program, in the master's program. And I would like to share with everyone, if technology allows me, I would like to share this video because it summarizes many people's experiences. And I think this time I will be able to do so. So here it goes.
Y estoy sumamente entusiasmada y agradecida por ser parte del HSA Happiness Students Academy.
We are around the world with different time zones, with different language cultures. We are people from 70 countries all over the world.
Y realmente es un regalo que yo me he hecho para crecer cada vez más como persona.
Então, como nós cuidamos das dimensões espirituais, físicas, intelectuais, relacionais e emocionais em nossas vidas.
This experience really gave me tools that I could teach other people with that are just across the board, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your life, whether it's your health.
הקורס מתאים להורים, למאמנים, לפסיכולוגים, לאנשי חינוך, למנהלים ובעצם לכל מי שרוצה להעלות את הרווחה הנפשית והפיזית על ידי ידע תיאורטי וכלים פרקטיים.
Entonces, pues se trata de esparcir felicidad justo en momentos como estos que históricamente es altamente necesario. Y si lo estás dudando, no lo dudes, te lo recomiendo ampliamente, no te vas a arrepentir.
非常希望你们也能参加这个幸福学院，因为我在这收获很大。
So we can work together to make a happiness tribe. Why? So that we can work together to make the world a happier place.
Únete y sé parte de nuestra familia para ser más felices. Happiness Students Academy. Te necesitamos. Ven.
Well, I'm very happy that it worked. And so we would like to invite you all to be part of this certificate program. The certificate, I'm going to share this in Spanish, Tal, mejor.
The certificate is a year-long program. It's divided into 2 semesters. In the first semester, you learn the introduction to happiness studies. You learn a lot of theory. You also learn a lot of practices derived from different philosophers, experts in both education and organizational psychology in many different areas. And the second semester is focused on how to apply these practices into your daily life as well as in your work. The main idea, how can you help yourself to become happier, to grow, to go out of your comfort zone from a place of self-awareness, and how to multiply this in your family, in your workplace, in your organization, and obviously in your community as well. The certificate is open to everyone in the whole world. It consists of pre-recorded lectures, which you can watch at your own pace, because the people in our community are coaches, are therapists, are working in education, are working in um, non-for-profit organizations. So there's a lot of professions, and we're busy people, so it's very valuable to be able to go at our own pace. And also, we have weekly webinars every Thursday where you can ask your questions to Tal, like we did today. And on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, we have a webinar open to Spanish-speaking people with me. That's also a space to connect, because we try to land all these practices into our culture, into our Spanish-speaking cultures. But one of the most amazing things, and I'm seeing a lot of students, a lot of colleagues, Sandy Mora, which gave her testimony in the video, the most valuable thing is the community. There's a club of students and graduates that organizes everything from webinars that help us how to apply what we learn in our different workspaces, how to put together a presentation, a page, how to develop courses on happiness. And also we come together in person. We have retreats at least twice a year. We've had retreats in Italy, in Mexico. The next one is in Rio, in Brazil. So there's a lot of opportunity to come together as well in person and celebrate together this amazing community that wants to better the world. And it's an international program certified by HSA, certified as well by EB. And we're going to start a new cohort this June, and we'd be very happy if you joined us. And before we say goodbye, I want to give a space to Tal so he can share why he created this program. And after that, we're gonna open a small Q&A session so I can answer your doubts regarding the certificate if you want to join. And also, something very important is that if you enroll in the certificate and then you want to enroll in the master's, the certificate counts towards the master's, as well as the economic cost that you paid for the certificate is taken into account for the master's as well. I've been working with Tal since 10 years ago, and at HSA since 6 years ago. I've also had the opportunity to be a teacher at the master's, and I cannot tell you how much quality these programs have, and also how applicable they are, and what people really start to do and see in their lives when they embark on this journey, on these wonderful opportunities for studying. A lot of people talk about a before HSA and after HSA in their lives, but I want to give the microphone to Tal.
Please, Tal, share with us whatever you want to share about this amazing program.
You know, I want to end by talking about one of the central studies within the field of positive psychology talks about hedonic adaptation. What this means is that we may experience a high when we get a new job, but that won't last. Very quickly, we go back to where we were before. We may be really excited when we buy a new car or a new house, but very quickly we go back to where we were before. In other words, what the research shows is that good things Our experience thereof doesn't last. We adapt, we go back to where we were before. And this basically happens with just about everything that we do. So this is what I expected would happen to me teaching in the Happiness Studies Academy, whether in the certificate or in the master's program. And I've been doing it for the past almost 10 years. And that hasn't happened. And I must say, I'm very surprised that it hasn't happened. That the excitement that I felt when the Happiness Studies Academy was founded and started teaching the certificate, or the excitement I felt when we introduced our first master's program, where Arlene was a professor, I thought that after teaching it once, twice, I would have had enough. But that hasn't happened. And I asked myself, why? Why is it different than, for example, we moved into a new house that I was very excited about. And now, yeah, I like our house, but it's not that we bought a new car 2 years ago. I was very excited, but it didn't last. Why does this last? And the answer is because every day, I'm reminded of how important the work that we do is. And when I say we, I mean every single member of the community. When we go out and we coach, or when we go out and we manage a company, or parent a child, or teach in a classroom. The work that we do is so important these days. In fact, I would argue more important than ever. So I hope you join us in this journey, because I'm blown away when I see what our community members, we call them fellow journeyers, what our community members are doing day in and day out around the world, in their homes, in their organizations, in their schools, in their communities. And I really hope you join us, because it's important, because it matters, because the world needs you. Arlene, thank you for bringing this community together. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I hope to see you again real soon.
Thank you so much, Tal. We are so grateful, as always, and every day more, for your presence, your teachings, and your kind and generous heart. We're very, very happy to have you here. And for Tal, para Tal es ahora muy tarde. I know it's late for you, Tal. So yo me voy a quedar. I'm going to stay para contestar todas las preguntas que tengan sobre la certificación. And thank you, Tal, once again. I hope you have a wonderful night and,
Thank you all.
And a beautiful end of the week.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.